As if healing from a narcissistic relationship isn't difficult enough, many of us unfortunately have the added task of recovering from or handling a smear campaign. In this video, I'm going to explain different types of smear campaigns, why they happen, and how best to handle them. Welcome to Looking Behind the Mirror, where we explore narcissism and take our lives back as we make sense out of nonsense. As a quick disclaimer, everything I say is based on my opinions and my personal experiences. I'm not a professional, and if you're really struggling, I encourage you to seek professional help. I am providing links below for you. So what exactly is a smear campaign, and why are they so common with narcissistic relationships? Smear campaigns typically happen during the devaluation stage of a relationship, which I have a video that I've done on that. If you don't know what that is, I'll link the video somewhere around here to describe what devaluation is. And they also happen when the relationship has come to an end, when you're trying to break things off, or when the narcissist is breaking things off with you. The purpose of a smear campaign is really pretty immature and shallow. It really is to make the narcissist look like the good guy, or the innocent victim, or the winner, and to frame everything in a way to make it your fault. Everything's your fault. You're the bad guy. You're the one that abandoned the narcissist, or deeply disappointed the narcissist, or somehow, some way betrayed the narcissist. The smear campaign is basically a way for the narcissist to avoid accountability and to keep all the useful relationships that he or she has. And narcissists will do just about anything to achieve this. So the different types of smear campaigns are many. One thing they may do during the devaluation stage or the end of the relationship is to provoke you, just to drive you crazy. I mean, a lot of them do this anyway, and they will just push you and harass you, push your buttons, say the most hurtful things, say things that are especially hurtful for you until you react, until you act crazy. And then somehow they'll do this in a way where people will only see your reaction. And this is called reactive abuse. This is really common. And then narcissists can just sit back and let people evaluate your behavior, and you look like the unhinged one. And if it works out for the narcissist, people will sit back and think, wow, no wonder that relationship didn't work out. Look at that person's behavior. Another thing narcissists can do is to betray your deepest secrets, things that you've confided in this person during the relationship, things that you thought you could trust them with. Maybe things that you really have done in your past that are actually really awful. I mean, we all make mistakes. And if you've confided your deepest, darkest secrets and your biggest mistakes to somebody that you really believed you can trust, sometimes that unfortunately can come back to bite us if we've unwittingly done that with a narcissist, because narcissists know no bounds and have no loyalty and no respect for any of your secrets, for anything they've learned about you. Absolutely everything they know about you, everything that you've told them, is just one more thing that they might be able to use for their own benefit. I knew a narcissist that was going through a divorce, and I did not know the narcissist's partner very well, very casual acquaintance. And I was in a circle of friends, for lack of a better word, associates, I don't know. And none of us were really very close to the narcissist's partner, but we had a closer friendship with the narcissist. And the narcissist was telling us about a very personal surgery that the narcissist's ex was getting. I don't even feel comfortable going into detail about the type of surgery. I mean, this was something that was absolutely nobody's business but the narcissist's ex. And I guess this person, the ex, thought that they could trust the narcissist with this information. But the narcissist was going around telling casual acquaintances about this very, very private surgery that was happening. I'm a little ashamed to say that at the time, I thought that this was a sign of trust and friendship, and I'm going to get into that a little later when I talk about flying monkeys. At the time, the narcissist sharing this information with me and a couple other people made us feel like we were in the know, like we were special, like we were part of the us in the us versus them. I look back now and I'm really quite ashamed that I looked at it that way. I understand now that this was just an extreme betrayal of this person's private information. It was absolutely none of my business, and it was told to me just to manipulate me. And I should also add that while this was the narcissist's ex, the narcissist was still hoovering this person and they were still seeing each other. And I'm sure that this ex had no idea that the narcissist was telling people about the ex's private business. I'm sure the ex would have been very, very upset if they had understood what was actually happening behind that person's back. Of course, another type of smear campaign is just blatant lies. Narcissists are definitely not above just completely making things up out of the blue. I think that more sophisticated or more intelligent narcissists are a little too smart for this. They'll usually use a thread of truth or a grain of truth in the things that they say about their victims. I think they know that by telling half-truths, they make everything a lot more believable. So this could be another form of a smear campaign, is just telling half the story. Like, maybe the narcissist will tell everybody that you never ever cooked for him, and that was something that was really important to him, and he told you that he really wanted somebody that could cook for him, and that meant a lot to him, and you just refused to ever even try to cook for him. But not tell anyone that every time you tried to cook for the narcissist, he would criticize you and rip you apart and just make you feel stupid for even trying. The narcissist wasn't lying, but they're leaving out a very, very important part of the story. And that's a pretty benign example. I experienced some examples where, it would take me too long to even explain the whole story, but narcissists will tell half the story and leave out the half that completely changes everything about the story and completely changes the entire perspective. Another thing that is really common with narcissists is spinning the story of how the relationship's ending. Maybe you dumped them, but they're going around telling everybody that they dumped you. Maybe they're even telling you that they dumped you when you clearly are the one that ended the relationship. Or maybe the narcissist just bailed one day, just decided to dump you out of the blue with no warning. And now they're going around telling everybody, oh, I tried so hard, I wanted it to work, I'm really so heartbroken, I wish that he or she could have listened to me, or that we could have tried a little harder. So that's like so hurtful, so insidious, but they definitely do that kind of thing where they make up their own narrative, their own story of how and why and who ended the relationship that's just completely off base and a very, very unfair portrayal of what happened. Another thing narcissists will do to create a smear campaign is to kind of warm people up, in a sense, before the relationship actually ends. This happens in the devaluation stage of the relationship, where the narcissist will maybe just start complaining about their partner to their friends or family or whoever, where they're starting to plant the seed of the idea that they're having problems with their partner, when really what's happening is they're devaluing their partner and they're starting to become more and more abusive. They usually don't really understand what's happening. They just know that they're really disappointed and really angry. They probably are imagining that it's their partner's fault, but what's really happening is reality is starting to creep in. It's upsetting the narcissist, and the narcissist is taking that out on their partner, and now they're kind of in panic mode thinking, oh my gosh, I'm not with the most perfect human being that's going to save me for all time. I'm eventually going to lose this relationship, and I better get everything ready so that when it ends, I end up smelling like roses. So they'll go around and complain about their partner to their friends and family and get everybody used to the idea that their partner is the problem, that their partner is causing problems, that they're having problems at home with their partner. And then by the time the relationship ends, it's real easy for the narcissist to just pick up where they left off on that narrative and say, yeah, I tried so hard, but he or she was just so difficult. We had such a hard time and I just couldn't seem to get through to him or her. I remember another narcissist I knew really well that was in a group of friends of ours that got divorced from a partner that we didn't know very well. But I remember at one point this narcissist complaining that their partner was a pig because their partner would leave dirty dishes in the bedroom. Like they would go into the bedroom and eat, and then they would just leave the bowl on the nightstand. And therefore the partner was a pig. And I look back now, and now I can understand that in reality, maybe the partner did this once, or maybe twice, or maybe they would leave the bowl for a half hour and then come back and get it. And the narcissist blew this up into this huge, awful problem where there were just piles of dishes in the bedroom and there were mice crawling all over it, and their partner was a pig because of this, and they just couldn't live with this person anymore. So at the time I thought using the word pig was a little harsh, but I still had a lot to learn back then. So these smear campaigns are very, very hurtful, and they can be extremely humiliating for obvious reasons. When we're just realizing that the person that we've likely trusted more than anyone else in our lives is somebody that we can't trust, when we're grappling with the idea that we're being betrayed or that we've been betrayed by the person that we trust the most, the last thing we need is to lose all the rest of the support that we have. Just when we need our friends, our family, our social network the most, we suddenly find that many of them are turning their backs on us, that many of them are unfairly judging us for the way the relationship ended, and maybe even cutting contact off with us depending on how bad the smear campaign has gotten. And this is really, really hurtful and devastating, and it can also make us really, really angry. These people we thought were our friends, people that maybe we were really close with for years, just suddenly assumes the worst, won't even ask us for an explanation. I mean, this can get really, really bad. For me, overcoming this and emotionally recovering from this was probably the hardest part of recovering from narcissistic abuse. It took me a couple years to start to feel normal again, but even to this day, I still struggle with the anger that I feel towards certain people that just turn their back on me and wouldn't even ask me for my side of the story. So this is really, really tough. It's really hard to accept this, but I think in order to begin to handle this and deal with it, it's important to understand why it happens. One reason is, as I mentioned earlier, there's an us versus them kind of dynamic with narcissists. Narcissists develop a sort of cult of one, and narcissists surround themselves with people that buy into this cult of one, that buy into this us versus them kind of mentality. People that are getting something out of being around the narcissist, people that are fulfilling some sort of emotional need by feeling included in this manufactured cult of us versus them. And if you were really bought into a narcissist, if you were very close to one and you fell for all these manipulations because of your emotional needs and vulnerabilities, you might have been in the same boat as these flying monkeys, but you're now in a sense the one that's being cast off. It's kind of like getting kicked out of a cult, or it's kind of like trying to leave a cult. This us versus them is a really, really strong and toxic emotional dynamic. So when you leave, when you cut off contact with this narcissist that has all these little minions that get an emotional charge out of being included and accepted by the narcissist, a lot of these people aren't going to want to be loyal to you because they're loyal to the narcissist, because the narcissist is feeding their emotional vulnerabilities. They aren't going to feel safe with you. They aren't going to feel included. Many narcissists that are socially skilled are really good at surrounding themselves with people that are either toxic, have toxic traits, maybe are narcissists themselves, maybe vulnerable narcissists, or people that are just emotionally vulnerable, people that maybe don't have very high self-esteem, people that are looking for somewhere to belong or for somebody to help them feel like they belong somewhere, or maybe people that just are immature, that just don't have the wisdom yet to recognize a whole, healthy, genuine human being, and they get caught up in feeling like they're included somewhere, like somebody is accepting them. So when you're very close to a narcissist, there's a pretty good chance that a very large portion of your social circle is made up of people that just don't have the emotional skills to stand by you in a smear campaign. And while leaving a cult or leaving a narcissist and therefore forfeiting all of your friends is very isolating, very painful, very invalidating, and can really make you question whether or not you're the one in the wrong, it doesn't mean you are in the wrong. In fact, it's probably a sign that you're the only one that seems to have gained your sanity. So how do you handle this? How do you get through day-to-day life in such a hurtful environment, especially where maybe some of these people that have turned their backs on you are people that you still have connections with, that you still have to associate with for whatever reason? This is really, really hard. Now, from here on out, this is just my advice. I can't tell you what to do. I can only tell you what I did in these situations and why, what my reasoning was, and why, in my opinion, this is the best way to handle these types of situations. But I can't make these decisions for you, and I'm not an expert on every situation. Everybody's situation is going to be a little different. But in my opinion, I think that it is a huge waste of time and energy to try to prove things to people that don't want to believe you. I think it's important to understand that flying monkeys don't want to believe you. So you might have an audio recording of the narcissist freaking out on you and screaming at you. You might have proof that the narcissist is lying about you, about certain things, but you're going to be really disappointed to find that probably most of the people that are buying into the smear campaign, that are these flying monkeys, don't want to see it. They really don't care. They're not in it for justice. They're not in it for you. They're not in it for truth. They're in it for the reasons I just described. They're getting something emotional out of this. They are emotionally invested in the narcissist. They want to believe the narcissist, and they don't want to believe you. And this is really infuriating and really, really frustrating, but it is unfortunately reality. So the more that you sit and try to present your evidence and try to defend yourself and try to state your case, the more of your energy you're really wasting on people that don't deserve your time. They really don't. And they're not looking for proof of anything because they already have decided what they believe. They've already decided whose side they're on. And unless you can take legal action, unless you're actually being slandered and libeled in a way that you can demonstrate and prove, I really think, in my opinion, the best thing you can do in a smear campaign is to completely ignore it. And I really believe that this is the best way to fight the smear campaign effectively, because the more energy you put into it, the more engaged you become, and the harder you try to defend yourself, the more guilty you actually make yourself look, the more credibility you lend to the narcissist's story. Actively fighting against a smear campaign breathes life into it. Every time you have an argument with somebody, or you become upset or emotionally engaged with somebody about this smear campaign, you give it another little push and it just keeps rolling down the road. The narcissist wants you to try to defend yourself, and the narcissist thrives in the chaos of the smear campaign. The narcissist is hoping that you're going to get all riled up and get upset and maybe even engage in some of the reactive abuse that they've provoked you into doing. And you can really make yourself look even worse by the way that the smear campaign can emotionally provoke you. And those people that want to believe the narcissist's story are going to see what they want to see, just like the narcissist does. So you're really not going to be able to convince anybody of the truth by getting upset and defending it and trying to prove it to people. What I've learned is that the people that are really worth it, and the people that are actually your friends, and the people that actually have bothered to get to know you, are not people that you need to prove anything to. You will never have to explain things to people that really know you and really care about you and are mature enough to understand that they don't know the whole story because they weren't there. I've told this story before, I can't remember in what video, but I'll share it again. I personally went through a really brutal smear campaign about 10 years ago, I guess it was. I lost like a huge chunk of the people that I knew in my life, of my social network. And there was one lady that I was casual friends with, and I was in a Facebook friends group with her and some other people. I was going through this smear campaign, and it was probably 6 or 7 months after I had separated from the narcissist that was causing this smear campaign, when this lady just called me up out of the blue one day, and she said that she wanted to apologize for kicking me out of this Facebook friends group. And I honestly hadn't noticed that I was kicked out of this Facebook friends group. I didn't even know. But she explained to me that somebody that was a flying monkey that was going around telling people to cut me off, to not talk to me anymore, had told her that she needed to kick me out of this Facebook group, and that she hadn't really given it much thought. She just went ahead and did it. And she was calling me now to say that that's what had happened, and that she was sorry, that she had thought about it and realized that she didn't really know what was going on, that it really wasn't any of her business, that I had never given her a reason to kick me out of this Facebook group. And I mean, she was just owning it and apologizing. And that really has stuck with me over the years. That's somebody that had some wisdom and maturity. And while they went along with the smear campaign for a little bit, when they had time to stop and think about it, they realized that they weren't being fair. And they actually called me and apologized for something I didn't even realize had happened. Those are the kind of people that are worth your time. And those are the people you don't have to defend yourself against. I didn't have to explain anything to her. She didn't ask me what my side of the story was. She didn't ask me what happened. She just said, "I'm sorry, this was none of my business. I shouldn't have just cut you off like that, and I hope you'll forgive me." And that was it. She wasn't fishing for information. And those are really the only kinds of relationships that are worth your time and energy, especially when you're trying to heal from an abusive relationship. When you're trying to heal from an abusive relationship, you don't have time or energy to spare on a whole bunch of immature, vapid, shallow, fake people that never really cared about you in the first place. These relationships that you've lost are really not worth much. People that would turn their back on you because of what someone else said about you. I mean, what do you really have there? What have you really lost? And if the price for keeping those relationships was to stay in a toxic, abusive relationship, I mean, I can't imagine that it would even be almost worth the price of keeping them. And when you rid yourself of these shallow, toxic, fair weather friends, you free yourself up for real relationships. You free up your time and energy to learn what genuine connection really is all about, what real trust that is earned is actually worth. You free yourself up to be able to associate and build connections with people that won't do this to you. So although I know that it's much easier said than done, I can tell you that my best advice is to completely ignore it. Ignore all those people that aren't worth your energy and time, and count yourself lucky that you've been able to see how shallow and fragile these relationships really were, how meaningless and empty they actually were. I promise that it does eventually get easier, and that these relationships you've lost will be things that you really won't miss much in the future. I hope this helps. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and comment below any ideas you have for me for future videos. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you like this video and would like to see more like it in the future. Until next time, thanks. Bye.